Would say we can start. Okay. Thank you for joining my session. Be your own Sherlock in the realms of Microsoft Graph. My name is Christian Ritter, but before I start to further introduce myself, I want to say thank you to our sponsors, because without them, this whole conference and also this minicon wouldn't even be possible. And also, I have to say thank you to you, because you spent the money or the money of your company, so we all can have a great time. So thank you. But a little bit more from me. My name is Christian Ritter. I live nearby Frankfurt, so Wiesbaden next year will be a pleasure to travel. I'm a senior system engineer working for CANCOM. I'm kind of proficient with PowerShell, Microsoft Graph, IT in general. Um, on my spare time, I like to spend time with my family, play some billiards or board games. And as you can see, I'm a kind of good cook. On the other hand, I'm a father of two. I'm married and I'm a 2 times Microsoft MVP in the fields of PowerShell and Microsoft Graph. So, and with that said, let's get ahead. Today I want to show you this agenda. It's now a bit cryptic, I know for sure, but it will make sense in a few, so stay tuned. But before I start to show you something, I have prepared a little poll. I hope you can scan this QR code. And if you don't want to, if you can't, I put a link down below, because I want to know something from you before we start. So make sure to start the questionnaire, because I'm very interested in this. If someone could be so nice and post this link into the chat, then I can move along. Hopefully this was enough time that you were able to catch this link, because I want to go further. So the game is afoot. We have to setting the scene. So, but what does this mean? Yeah, I want to introduce the session a little bit to you. So the importance of detective work in our script. We have a challenge, because in Microsoft Graph, it's quite easily to mess things up and use excessive privileges during your Microsoft Graph automation with PowerShell. Not even with PowerShell, but as we are mostly here PowerShell devs, or at least people that are forced to work with PowerShell, this could be a good idea, because be honest, I automate things because I'm lazy. I want to play some time with my kids or something like that. Or I mean, I want to do other things than superiorly repeating tasks. I want to spend my time with more quality. Therefore, I want to get rid of this whole process about privileges in Microsoft Graph to find out what my script needs. I just want someone or something to do this for me. So, and that's the reason why I choose to talk to give to you. But it's kind of difficult to correctly implementing those least privileges, or this privileged attempt, I like to say, because there are some kind of pitfalls and edge cases, but to this we will come a little bit later. And I want to introduce you to the concept of meta programming or meta scripts that are able to examine and analyze other scripts. So I want to create a script which checks my graph script for the needed permissions. Sounds like a good plan, I guess. So therefore, let's see if I were able to get through this somehow. And the world is full of obvious things which nobody by any chance ever observes. So we want to gather those clues. As you can see in the picture on my head, I also got this little deer stalker and also magnifier. Okay, let's go ahead. What I mean by gathering the clues, we want to collect evidence from our PowerShell script, how to find every graph-related command, parsing scripts content efficiently. You see, but you do not observe. So, and I just want to jump right into VS Code, because I want to show you. So here's a little script that does the thing, maybe something like you have written many times. I connect to Microsoft Graph. I say, okay, that's all the needed scopes, like user read all and group read all. And I have to come up in my mind which is the right privilege I have to give to my script to do a thing. But I'm 100% sure that this is the least privileged attempt, or even if I use a command which I never used before, I have to study the command, I have to go to learn.microsoft, which is a fantastic resource, but I want to make the whole process faster and easier to use. So as you can see as well, this script also uses commands not related to Microsoft Graph, and there's no real big meaning. It's just for demo purposes, a little test script. So, but we have graph commands in here, like get mguser dash all, or get mggroup with a filter and all, and even get mggroup member with a group ID, because this will become important a little bit later. And down below, you will see something I also fixed. I make use here of the command get mgdevice, but if you look closely at the scopes, there is a scope missing for the devices. But this is our demo script for now. We want to gather the clues, I said. Then let's do this. Who of you has ever worked with the AST so far? I can't see right now hands. Is the bad thing about doing a presentation remotely, but I assume some of you already saw this, and if you have fulfilled my poll request, then maybe I also can get those information a little bit later. So, but for now, the abstract syntax tree, the AST, is something I can make use of to iterate through another script or code and check exactly which kind of commandlets in there, parameters, variables, all those stuff. And you have experienced the AST so far. If you use VS Code, for instance, and create a variable, I will do this down below here, and you just say var equals 1, 2, 3. So, and now you see the little squiggly lines. There is the PS Script Analyzer. And PS Script Analyzer has some dedicated rules, which helps me to write good or better code. And under the hood, PS Script Analyzer uses the abstract syntax tree to check on what is my script really doing. And if there is some kind of issue, you can also write your own script analyzer rule, which I did, and is here in my VS Code setup laying down below. So, but for the script, I just read in the demo script like this. And then I build up the AST. So I build an object for the language parser, and I use the method parse input, put in my script content, which I get from get content, and then the AST object is already built. And now I can make use of the find all method. And there, with the parameter as a and with the find all method, I can iterate through all of those nodes and ask with the predicate, hey, is this some kind of comment AST? So I can get all of those comments. And if the predicate is true, it will be redirected to this variable, comment invocations. And let us do this right now. And then I can iterate through all of those comments, because right now, in this variable, let us inspect this real quick. There are many informations about each node, and there are also commands like select object, because is a command, or even get event log. So, but we are interested in the graph commands, right? Exactly. And therefore, while iterating through, we can make use of the get comment name method to retrieve the comment of the comment name of the command. Interesting. And then I will store it in this variable. And if it's a real command, then I say, okay, for this command, get comment name. And then I check just for the module name. And if the module name contains something like Microsoft.graph.user or something like that, then it's a good indicator this is a graph command. So, and let us do this right now. I'm not 100% sure if I executed this already, so I will do it another time. But now, if we just want to see, I can have multiple commands, so therefore I say, okay, please sort them uniquely. And we now have a look. We can see all those Microsoft Graph commands that my script use just by traversing via the AST. Cool, isn't it? And I have added many commands, so if you at the end you will, or the next few days, you can also go to GitHub for the PSConf repo and just get his code if you want to get your hands dirty as well. Okay, as I say this, let's head back to the presentation, because right now we collected all of the graph scripts, but it doesn't say anything about the permissions, right? So we want to deduct something. We want to turn clues into insight. And how could we do this? We can analyze what the evidence really means. We can find matching commands to the graph endpoints and determine the last required permissions. It is a capital mistake to theorize before one has data. So let us collect this data so we can make proper assumptions or gain insights. So this little script I showed you earlier, I've packed in a little function for easier handling. It's basically the same function, basically the same code for this function. And I can rerun it so we can make sure everything works as expected. And then we have this little command in the module Microsoft.Graph.Authentication called find mggraph command. And this is pretty helpful because when we now do this for get mguser, we can get the command, the module, the permission, and the URI. And exactly this I want to showcase. Cool, isn't it? So as you can see, I've got two elements back from this one command. But what's the difference? Obviously, the permission subset is a little bit different, but also the URI. So because I can say, okay, get mguser and ask for the user ID, and then it will automatically be passed through the URI by calling. Or if I say, for instance, like dash all, I get all of those. So I would go with this route, which has a different permission subset. So that's the thing we have to keep in mind. But now, for now, I can say, okay, I iterate through all the graph commands, and I say for each command, give me those informations that I need. And then I can go down right here, and I can see all of those permissions. And of course, connect mggraph. This command doesn't require any permissions because it's the thing I put in the permissions to connect to Microsoft Graph. Hooray! Makes sense. And you can see, hey, there are some kind of duplicates because one time I said get mggroup dash all, one time I asked for an ID and so on. So we have to reduce the output further, but this will come in a view. Let's go back to the presentation. The solution, the least privilege manifest. And please don't ask me why I wasn't able to get rid of the top of the flask that I hold in my hands, because obviously this is a real picture and I wasn't strong enough to remove them. So, building educated permissions recommendation. To build a final solution which doesn't have any pitfalls is a hard task. You will see why, but it is. So therefore, I say, okay, it's educated. So we have good angles that we can apply to the goal to reduce those permissions that we don't need. But there are also some kind of pitfalls, so have that in mind. But if 90% of the work is done automatically, there's 10% is left. I can do this with ease without getting annoyed. And if someone is interested in this and says, hey, this guy, this Christian, he missed the point, then hey, please make a pull request. I really would love to gain your input. So we want to generate a minimal permission set automatically. And we want to produce this report or policy recommendation. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. So, and therefore, let's head back to code. And we start again by the getGraph commands function. Initializing. And now we have a function called getLeastPrivilegedMap. And this takes an array of graph commands. Who have guessed? And for the least privileged, sorry, pardon me. For least privileged map, we just iterate through all of those graph commands, find a specific graph command via find empty graph command, and don't make a drinking game how often I say command. You won't have this. So then I iterate through this because as we already spoke about this, we were able to see sometimes one command can have like here different sets. So we have to step through. And if the command name is something like connect mggraph, we just return or continue. Then we can fit the permissions by comment type because maybe you have seen already there's also most of the times for the permissions a read as well as a write permission. So if my command is get mg user, why do I need a write permission? So therefore I just say, okay, if the command starts with get, then please use the one with not the write name into the permission itself. And if it's not a get, then please make sure that we use the write permission. So we can narrow down the permissions a little bit more, but how we could do this? As you have seen, for the find mggraph command, it also points to the module. So in the module is something like Microsoft .graph.users, for instance, and the permission is user.read.all. So therefore, I can say, hey, there's something that could point to the least privileged attempt just by reading the names. But unfortunately, the module name is built up in plural. And hopefully Björn likes me for this because I added some kind of regex and there will be more in the session. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of regex, but I accept that it's useful and I make use of it. So as I said, I just removed the S for the plural. And then I say, okay, hey, where the name starts something like the module base dot something else, then it's quite a good indicator that we narrow down through the least privileged attempt. And if there's no outcome whatsoever, then I say, okay, just stick with the old parameters that we also gathered already. And then if there's some kind of multiple ones, I just make them unique, just to make sure. And I can also filter on the URI because if it's something I have here with an ID, like get mg user parameter user ID, for instance, then I want make use of the one where the URI is user ID. Makes sense, isn't it? But how did I get to this property called has ID in URI or user ID? More or less this property. Where does it come from? There's something I didn't show you already. So like Holmes always does to Watson because he figured out something and applied this and then came up just with a solution like I did right now. Basically, I iterate through the command like before, but this time I also look for the parameter AST for the comments. And I just say, hey, if it matches the ID as a Boolean expression right here, then it uses the ID. And therefore I can filter out a little bit further. I probably skipped it way too much. So, okay, only skip if both variants exist, and this one doesn't match. So, and then the thing is about get mg user, we will come to this a little bit later. But if the command is not mg user, then I want to take the first part of the URI equal user ID, like here, users, and I just want to get the base, like users. Also many much regex, and yes, I'm got a little bit help from the AI because, as I said, I'm not the biggest fan, but I see why it makes sense. So please don't ask me to really go into detail what this regex expression means. But yeah, just keep this in mind. It works on my machine and also other machines that has it. So now for the filter parameter, I just split by the dot. So I just get the first part before the dot, like user read, and it stays just user. And then I just go by the filter permissions reduced. And again, if there is something, I just apply it to the filter perms, which I then build up the object. And this else part, which is not filled yet, is the other thing for the get mguser command, because maybe you have seen it already. Get mguser, like down below here, has readBasic.all. ReadBasic.all is a permission which has a very limited subset of properties that gets that you can retrieve from the endpoint, instead compared to user_read.all, where you can get a bunch of more properties. And I don't speak about consistency level right now. But how could you determine if you have to use user_read_basic.all and user.read .all? Basically, if I would make another AST run through a traversing and just say, get this variable where use get mguser, and look through each property that is used, and if this is more than the properties I will retrieve from readBasic.all, when I read them, that could be a good indicator that I have to use user.read.all if it exceeds the properties that user_read_basic.all returns. Make sense so far? I hope. Because I can't see your eyes, but I just assume. Then I just create a PS custom object with the command, the module, the URI, the permissions that I filtered before, and just a user ID and the line number if I just have to look up if something was messed up. So the more information you have, the better it is. So as I said, this is the function. And let us just get a memory. And here's the example usage for the demo script. And it takes quite a while. Yeah, so I have found a solution to bump the efficiency up by a ton, and I will showcase this, I will tell you about it at the end of my session. Well, as you can see here, every permission was reduced to 1, which should represent the least privilege attempt, except for get mguser. As I said, I have to determine right now by hand if it's user.read.all or user.readBasic.all. But if you saw already how many permissions I could make use of, it's pretty fine that they are so reduced to this point, to be honest. So just let me check real quick how much menu. Oh, I have 6 minutes left. This could be fine. So the solution. And now the final report, demonstration results. So the thing is, I already showcased what I did so far. So the final report or the demonstration, I just could extend this a little bit more by reducing the filter permissions if I have a comment there twice, 3 times, 6 times, whatever, like, because then if I have 2 times get mguser, I would have the same permission subset, so I can reduce it a little bit more. So the meta script investigation, another script I can show you, but this is the fun part, integrating it into CI/CD or review pipelines. And my name is Sherlock Holmes. My name is Christian. It's my business to know what other people do not know. Let us head back into VS Code for the for. So as I said, it's the same script. And at the end, I just gather the permissions and make them unique. And with that said, it's the same output because I don't have commands twice there, but hopefully you get the idea. But as I said, it's kind of slow. It's still fast, but there's only a handful of commands. Imagine modules or scripts where you have a ton of commands. Hey, we need to improve this. So 5 minutes left. Sorry. Okay. Integration. I talked about CI/CD, or earlier this presentation I spoke about the script analyzer rules. And I created a script analyzer rules. A rule. Let's inspect this. So I have written a little script analyzer rule. I don't want to explain into detail because we are running out of time and it's a little bit out of scope to go too deep into script analyzer rules, but you will get the idea. I make use of the AST to check just for the connection string here. It's just another example what you could do with this thinking. I just try to look for the connect graph command, and then I just want to know, okay, which kind of scopes did my script use, and then I go through all of those commands, get all of the permissions that are possible applicable to the script, and if the scope parameter has a parameter more than the actual connection string really needs, then it should shout at me and say, hey, this is a bummer, please fix this. And this I want to show in a, here's a sample. Like as you can see here, I have granted the device read all, and I just make use of mguser and mggroup. So, and then we go here. I just invoke the script analyzer with my custom rule path to my measure permission scope file and a path to my sample. Let's run and try and see if I fail badly or if it went through smoothly. It went through smoothly. Cheers. So, as you can see, this is the rule name, measure graph permission scope. Severity is 1. This is my script name, and the permission scope device all is not used in the script, so please make sure to remove it. And when we take this a step further, we can integrate this into Azure pipelines. So if I have a Azure DevOps or GitHub or whatever I like, where I can apply some pipelines and training and all those clues, I basically can say, okay, I create a custom rule runner, for instance, which applies all of my rules because maybe I have plenty of those. And then I just say, okay, please go through my script and look for all PS1 files using a custom rule, and then just run the invoke script analyzer here with a custom rule path and a path like we did in the sample right now. And if everything is fine, then I won't see any output from this section here for the results. And if I would see exactly which rule was broken, and at the end, if I exit by 0, then the pipeline will get straight through and it won't complain. And I can contribute to the main, for instance. But how could I do this? Therefore, I've written a little YAML file for Azure DevOps. Like here, so every time we push or change code in the main branch, this will be triggered. I run the put latest. I say, okay, this is my script path for the script and also for my tests. And then I just say, okay, here, give this child a name, use it as a add2 that I can run also on Linux read systems. Then I can point to the target type, the file path, and also the arguments like we did before in our test. And it will be executed and everything will be all done at the end. And this is how easy you could integrate this into your CI/CD. And with that said, and hopefully I don't run out of time, we go to what's notes. What have you learned? Where's room for improvement? Etc. So, I hopefully you got the idea how we can build habits of evidence-first automation. So we have some kind of idea which shows me a thing, which lead to thinking, I like to say, how we could improve or secure things, compromise it, make it faster, better, or something like this. So inspect your scripts from another angle, I like to say. And this is something like applying detective work into your work with PowerShell and or even Graph at the end. And sharing findings with the community, because I gained my knowledge from people like you, people that done awesome things with PowerShell or Microsoft Graph, and it helped me a ton. And I've got an idea, and I did something I wanted to share, want to spread the word about, and it was basically the idea behind the session, because I've done this. For me, it's a nice win, and if I don't need to share it, but I want to share it. And it's the mindset I want to also give you today. And education never ends. It's a series of lessons with the creator for the last. And before we head to the Q&A, let me really, really quick head into the last section of my code, because there are some lessons learned. I really will skip through this, and I've written this in detail. So when you rewatch the session, or if you just head into the GitHub for the session, just make sure, read it carefully, because I did a little effort into this. So we can improve the logic, like I said, for user read all or user read basic all. As I showed you, as I said, how you could do this. And the performance, this is something that bugs me, because I like to make things fast and speed them up. But the command find mg graph command is kind of slow. But what if I tell you we only need this once? So what I mean with that? So let us head into a fresh instance of a PowerShell. So because there is a singleton instance, yeah. So graph session instance. Let us check if this is already present in our current session. And I hope it isn't. It is done. Hopefully it's here not. It is done. Everything comes with 3. There was also a book by Sherlock Holmes with 3. Perfect. So it is not present here, but how could we make this present? Simple. Find mg graph command, this, something. And as you can see, it takes time. And now if I go back to the singleton, and here is something called mg command metadata. And if I go for this and say, hey, sorry, I probably missed the thing, metadata. Why it's not present right now? Oh, because I assigned it to temp. And as you can see, here is the list as ordered hash tables of every command, even with beta 1.0, and every permission if one is associated with a command. So I have now a list of ordered hash tables, which makes lookups pretty fast. And this is the thing I want to refactor my code for using this. Use one times find mg graph command, and then go by the singleton and make lookups there for performance. And on the other hand, but also with find mg graph command, I have the possibilities, because there's another room for improvement. Is this one. And a lookup if the script contains a native call to the API via invoke REST method or invoke web request, for instance. And then I don't have to use the commands from the module.microsoft.graph. I just can go by native commands, and so I can make Ben happy, because Ben is a very big fan of not using the Microsoft Graph module. And this is also, like I said, a room for improvement. Also at API version support for beta and 1.0. And what's also missing, what's the case if I have one command get mg user and one set mg user? For set mg user, I highly need those write permissions. But if I have write permissions, as a read-write permission it is, I don't need the read-only permissions anymore. So I can reduce also the permission subset even further. And with that,